All right, so this article is really about, or first of all, the article is about a teacher named Chris who has a class where part of his project is having the kids be participate in some type of, organizational event or something like that. So he talks about the idea of doing something AIDS related for the kids to do. And he starts out, by asking the kids, hey, does anybody know anybody with AIDS? Does anybody know anybody who died with AIDS? And of course, this is coming from a really small town. And of course, with me personally being from a small town as well, my graduation class was 50, and that was considered a big class. And I related to this article a lot with my hometown in the same way they would have reacted in the same way that the kids do in this article. So he tries to get the kids more interested in doing something other than the normal car wash or the normal athletic booster. He's trying to get the kids to do something different to cure, the awful disease, which is AIDS. And of course, with as small as a school as they are, he goes to the principal and he brings up the idea to the principal. The principal's like, no, you cannot do this because you're not going to get any support. It's going to be shut down. The school board won't listen to him, and the parents are going to cause a big issue with it because the school he's from is ultra conservative, or the school he works in is ultra conservative, Republican, highly religious Catholic. So you already know it's not going to work that way. So one of the big things he talks about is the lack of education towards health classes, or especially AIDS based or something that may be looked down upon by people who are not overly religious, but super religious in a way. So, I think one of the great things that he talked about, and one of the things that definitely could work, is, educating people. Because in the article, one of the kids speaks up and, I don't want to be around somebody with AIDS. Because if I touch him, or if he breathes on me, I'm going to get AIDS. So whenever he brought up the idea of, educating our children or having better health-based classes, I think that could definitely help that for sure. And I think one thing I think he could have done better is, I know he tried to talk about, kids under a certain age have died from AIDS, and, unhomosexual people have died from AIDS. And I know he tried that towards the end of the article, and to no avail. And I think a big problem, and I've seen it in my own school or my hometown school, is that, and understandably so, kids do not have their own. They should have their own opinions, but their parents' opinions still play a huge role in their minds, especially with something like AIDS, where their parents have probably told them that the whole thing on homosexuality that's a sin, especially in highly religious households or cities like this. That's a sin, that's a horrible thing. We don't talk about that. And I think one of the biggest problems is that they don't talk about it, and that is a big problem, in my opinion. So he of course keeps trying to change the opinions of his kids on AIDS. He tries to get them to do that AIDS walk to raise money for AIDS. And he keeps trying, and eventually at the end of the article, he gets to the point where he talks about not everybody who dies from AIDS is homosexual and things like that. But at the end of the day, kids still rejected it, in my opinion, because their parents have told them and taught them that, hey, this is bad, we don't want to do it, that's the devil's work, that's a sin, things like that. Instead of teaching kids in health classes, one of the things he talked about in the article was that they teach pretty much the bare minimum in health classes at that school. They don't teach things like AIDS, or if they do, they don't talk about it very much at all. So I think the main thing here is that kids are going to have, or kids' parents are going to have a huge influence in certain things just because their parents tell them to. So I think having big act or trying to get a big story is just that he's trying to get his kids affiliated and be affiliated and be a part of something that's different than what they're used to or might be comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, it's something that's good, but something that doesn't get talked about much in a small or a small community like this one, where Chris works as a teacher. My opinion on this is that, like I said, I'm from a very small town, and some of the ways that kids were talking, harmful matters against, homosexuals and things like that, are things that I see, even when I sub at my home school. You hear kids say some things like that, even if they don't understand it, which I even know from my own experience. My parents, I love my parents and everything, but they taught me some probably questionable things. Now that I look at it as a kid, that probably aren't true, because they're more conservative based. So I mean, at the end of the day, I've seen this firsthand, and I think one of the biggest things we can do is teach our kids, especially something about AIDS, teach our kids in health classes that, hey, if I bump into this person, I'm not going to get AIDS. Or if that person who has AIDS breathes on me, I'm not going to get AIDS. So I mean, just educating our kids and wanting to get them to be a part of something that helps people, no matter what their background is. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. I may not agree with something, but at the end of the day, I'm willing to help people who are struggling or are going through problems. And I think we should teach our kids that. And no, I'm not saying that we should keep pushing and pushing and pushing our kids, if I'm a teacher, to want to do something that they're not comfortable with. I don't think that's smart. And I do think he pushed a little too hard to try. I understand what he was really wanting, because I know he had the experience of knowing people, being from a bigger community where AIDS is talked about more and more educated. I know he talked about being from that bigger community and knowing people who have died from that. But if you go to a small town area like that, and I know for a fact, if you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, a lot of the times it's not going to do anything. You can educate them like he tried to do on, the kids and those really young children that are dying from AIDS, and that might get them interested a little bit. But whenever you bring back the whole homosexuality and their parents telling them that, hey, that's really bad, so in their mind they go like, oh, I can't do that because my parents said this or that.